the thing that I love about your vision of that everybody can have an AI, that every business can have an AI. In our company, I want every engineer and every software developer to have an AI.
Yeah.
And or many AIs. The thing that I love about your vision is you also believe that everybody and every company should be able to make their own AI. So you actually open sourced. When you open sourced Llama, I thought that was great. Llama 2.1, by the way, I thought Llama 2 was probably the biggest event in AI last year. And the reason for that,
I mean, I thought it was the H100, but you know, it's
it's a chicken or the egg question. That's a chicken
we
or
all
the
play
egg
our
question.
parts.
Yeah, which came first?
The H100. No, well, Llama 2 it was actually not the H100.
Yeah, it was A100. Yeah, thank you. And but the reason why I said it was the biggest event was because when that came out, it activated every company, every enterprise, and every industry. All of a sudden, every healthcare company was building AIs, every company was building AI, every large company, small companies, startups were building AIs. It made it possible for every researcher to be able to re-engage AI again because they have a starting point to do something with. And then now 3.1 is out, and the excitement, just so you know, we work together to deploy 3.1. We're taking it out to the world's enterprise, and the excitement is just off the charts. And I think it's going to enable all kinds of applications. But tell me about your open source philosophy. Where did that come from? And you open source PyTorch, and that it is now the framework by which AI is done. And now you've open sourced Llama 3.1 or Llama. There's a whole ecosystem built around it, and so I think it's terrific. But where did that all come from?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of history on a lot of this. I mean, we've done a lot of open source work over time. I think part of it, just bluntly, is we got started after some of the other tech companies, right, in building out stuff like the distributed computing infrastructure and the data centers, and because of that, by the time that we built that stuff, it wasn't a competitive advantage. So we're like, all right, we might as well make this open, and then we'll benefit from the ecosystem around that. So we had a bunch of projects like that. I think the biggest one was probably Open Compute, where we took our server designs, the network designs, and eventually the data center designs, and published all of that. And by having that become somewhat of an industry standard, all the supply chains basically got organized around it, which had this benefit of saving money for everyone. So by making it public and open, we basically have saved billions of dollars from doing that work.
Well, Open Compute was also what made it possible for NVIDIA HGXs that we designed for one data center. All of a sudden, it works in every data center.
Awesome. Yeah. So that was an awesome experience. And then we've done it with a bunch of our kind of infrastructure tools, things like React, PyTorch. So I'd say by the time that Llama came around, we were sort of positively predisposed towards doing this. For AI models specifically, I guess there's a few ways that I look at this. I mean, one is, it's been really fun building stuff over the last 20 years at the company. One of the things that has been sort of the most difficult has been kind of having to navigate the fact that we ship our apps through our competitors' mobile platforms. So, on the one hand, the mobile platforms have been this huge boon to the industry. That's been awesome. On the other hand, having to deliver your products through your competitors is challenging, right? And I also, I grew up in a time where, the first version of Facebook was on the web, and that was open. And then, as it transitioned to mobile, the plus side of that was, now everyone has a computer in their pocket, so that's great. The downside is, okay, we're a lot more restricted in what we can do. So when you look at these generations of computing, there's this big recency bias where everyone just looks at mobile and thinks, okay, because the closed ecosystem, because Apple basically won and set the terms of that, and I know that there's more Android phones out there technically, but Apple basically has the whole market, and all the profits, and basically Android is kind of following Apple in terms of the development of it. So I think Apple pretty clearly won this generation. But it's not always like that, right? I mean, if you go back a generation, Apple was doing their kind of closed thing. But Microsoft, which was, it obviously isn't like this perfectly open company, but compared to Apple with Windows running on all the different OEMs and different software, and different hardware, was a much more open ecosystem. And Windows was the leading ecosystem. It basically, in the kind of PC generation of things, the open ecosystem won. And I am kind of hopeful that in the next generation of computing, we're going to return to a zone where the open ecosystem wins and is the leading one again. There will always be a closed one and an open one. I think that there's reasons to do both. There are benefits to both. I'm not like a zealot on this. I mean, we do closed source stuff, and not everything that we publish is open. But I think in general, for the computing platforms that the whole industry is building on, there's a lot of value for that if the software especially is open. So that's really shaped my philosophy on this. And for both AI with Llama and with the work that we're doing in AR and VR, where we're basically making the Horizon OS that we're building for mixed reality an open operating system in the sense of kind of what Android or Windows was, and basically making it so that we're going to be able to work with lots of different hardware companies to make all different kinds of devices. We basically just want to return the ecosystem to that level where that's going to be the open one, and I'm pretty optimistic that in the next generation, the open ones are going to win. For us specifically, I just want to make sure that we have access to, I mean, this is sort of selfish, but I mean, it's, after building this company for a while, one of my things for the next 10 or 15 years is I just want to make sure that we can build the fundamental technology that we're going to be building social experiences on, because there have just been too many things that I've tried to build and then have just been told, nah, you can't really build that by the platform provider, that at some level I'm just like, nah. That for the next generation, we're going to go build all the way down and make sure that
there goes our broadcast opportunity.
Yeah, no, sorry. Sorry.
I was like, beep.
Yeah. We're doing okay for like 20 minutes, but give me talking about closed platforms and I get angry.
Hey, look, it is great. I think it's a great world where there are people who are dedicated to build the best possible AIs, however they build it, and they offer it to the world, as a service. And then, but if you want to build your own AI, you could still also build your own AI. So the ability to use an AI, there's a lot of stuff. I prefer not to make this jacket myself. I prefer to have this jacket made for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. But so the fact that leather could be open source is not a useful concept for me. But I think the idea that you could have great services, incredible services, as well as open ability.
Yeah.
Then we basically have the entire spectrum. But the thing that you did with 3.1 that was really great was you have 405B, you have 70B, you have 8B. You could use it for synthetic data generation, use the larger models to essentially teach the smaller models. And although the larger models will be more general, it's less brittle. You could still build a smaller model that fits in whatever operating domain or operating cost that you would like to have. MetaGuard, I think, incredible. Llama Guard for guard railing, fantastic. And so now, and the way that you built the model, it's built in a transparent way. It's you've got a world-class safety team, world-class ethics team. You could build it in such a way that everybody knows it's built properly. And so I really love that part of it.
Yeah, and I mean, just to finish the thought from before I got sidetracked there for a detour, I do think there's this alignment where, we're building it because we want the thing to exist and we want to not get cut off from some closed model, right? And but this isn't just like a piece of software that you can build. It's you need an ecosystem around it, and so it's almost like it kind of almost wouldn't even work that well if we didn't open source it, right? It's not, we're not doing this because we're kind of altruistic people, even though I think that this is going to be helpful for the ecosystem, and we're doing it because we think that this is going to make the thing that we're building the best by kind of having a robust ecosystem.
Well, look how many people contributed to PyTorch ecosystem.
Yeah, totally.
Mountains of engineering.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, NVIDIA alone, we probably have a couple of hundred people just dedicated to making PyTorch better and scalable and more performant and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and it's also just when something becomes something of an industry standard, other folks do work around it, right? So like all of the silicon and the systems will end up being optimized to run this thing really well, which will benefit everyone, but it will also work well with the system that we're building. And that's, I think, just one example of how this ends up being just being really effective. So yeah, I mean, I think that the open source strategy is going to be a good one as a business strategy. I think people still don't quite get...
we love it so much, we built an ecosystem around it. We built this thing
you
called
guys
AI
have been
Foundry.
awesome on this. Yeah, I mean, you guys have been awesome on
Yeah,
this. I mean, every time we're shipping something, you guys are the first to release this and optimize it and make it work. And so, I mean, I appreciate that. But
what can I say? We have good engineers.